Hi, I'm Amanda Shekarchi, and I am joined by Dana Wylie, who is the vocalist for the band Secondhand Dreamcar. They are a nine-piece root soul group based in Alberta. The album is Answer the Call, which got nominated for a Juno. Dana has been a songwriter for many years, and I'm excited to hear all about that. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the Juno nomination. What was your reaction when you found out?
Pretty surprised. Because to be honest, I'd forgotten that we had applied this year because I'm not the one who does that. So I didn't even know they were doing the announcements or anything. So I heard from my bandmates and so I was like, oh my gosh, okay, wonderful. And yeah, I've never been nominated before for any project that I've been a part of. And that's true for many of my bandmates too. So yeah, we were thrilled.
That's really exciting because the album is really amazing. It's called Answer the Call. And what is the meaning behind the title of the album?
Well, it's named after one of the songs on the album, and the lyrical thrust of that song is essentially it's something that's an endlessly prevalent and interesting theme for me, which is that there's so much in life that I really think of life like a dance with the divine or something. Like I spend so much of my life trying to mastermind, thinking that I had to have 5-year plans and that if anything was going to happen, I had to make it happen. And it's been, through, living my life and getting older that I've really come to feel that there's that, to know the way forward and to, to be in the world in a good and right way, what it mostly requires is listening and being responsive to what is being required of you at any given time, so answering the call, and that's I try to move forward into that. And as a writer, those themes are the ones that just never stop interesting me. So, and once the song was there, it seemed like a good name for our album too, because the band came to be very much in that sort of a way too. We feel like we didn't mean to put the band together, but it was suddenly there to be moved into, and we answered that call.
I love that. Yeah. Tell me more about how you guys formed as a band.
There were three of us who are still the core members of the band. That's me and Jamie Cooper, who's the drummer, and Harry Gregg, who's the bass player. We were all hired separately as individuals to form a house band for something that was going on here in Edmonton called a Pro Jam. It was happening every Wednesday, and so it was us, the three of us, and a guitar player who hasn't ended up in the band because he has his own band. And so we were there hired to play together every week, and we had to come up with, it was cover songs that we were playing obviously at the time, and but we could play whatever we wanted, and we just had to learn a few songs every week, so it was really low pressure. And we found that we all really liked doing the same kinds of songs. Like we really loved old soul and R&B, but also like the Tedeschi Trucks band, contemporary bands like that. And so those were the songs we were learning. And after 6 or 7 months of playing together every week, we realized, for one thing, that we had a lot of chemistry, and also that we really loved to play the same kind of music. And it was almost like we had a moment where we realized, well, wow, I think we're a band. Like so we should start writing and have develop our own material, and it's just kind of snowballed from there.
That's awesome. I feel like that's a really cool story. And what is it like performing with these people?
It's the best. There are 9 of us, and so there's a lot of sound on the stage, but we've all been doing this a long time. So, um, one thing that might go along, or might be a danger of having a band that is that big, is that it's just a lot of sound, but it's amazing. Everybody just knows. We arrange all our songs collectively as a band in rehearsal, and everybody really just knows how to stay in their lane, so that it's a big sound, but it's not too busy. And as a singer that likes to get loud sometimes, I don't think I've ever played with an ensemble before or sung with an ensemble where I feel like I can let her rip as big and as intense as I want to, and like they're under me. There's always enough under me. So for me, it's incredible.
That's beautiful. So I want to get back to the album. One of my favorite tracks is If You Ain't Got a Story. What was the inspiration behind it?
Well, that one I wrote nearly 10 years ago, actually, or about 10 years ago, for a blues competition. I put together a band with some guy. Actually, one of the guys who's in this band now, we had put together an ensemble back then to enter a blues competition. So I was trying to write songs that were in that sort of vein. And there was actually a particular Aretha Franklin song that I was somewhat modeling it after, which is something I had never done before. But, and it was, the whole idea of writing a song with a particular genre in mind was something I'd never done before as a songwriter. But because it was for this competition, that's what was going on. And at the time, I was I was in my mid 30s, and I was realizing that the people in my life, men that I was meeting in particular, and men that I was maybe becoming interested in, um, that you know by the time you're in your mid 30s, you've had some stuff happen to you, but that's what forms you into the person that you are. And I just wanted to articulate something I was thinking, which is that I wasn't finding men interesting at the time who seemed like very well adjusted, and like they were kind of putting on this thing like they've just got everything together and they're fine. I was more interested in, the men I was meeting for whom it was clear that they've been through they've had their heart broken, and they're kind of living their way out the other end of that. And so that's really where that song came from, is that, it's people are stories, and that's what's there to be loved.
I love that. And I feel like a follow up to that, like, is the song Could Be Anything. What does that one mean to you?
That one, a lot of those lyrics were inspired by a, a pretty revelatory experience I had the first time I went to Austin, Texas, a few years ago, a place to which I've now been many times, like probably a dozen times in the last few years, because it's become an important and special place to me. Um, and the first time I went there, I, I don't know, I had a revelatory experience that had to do with the the music scene there and musicians there, and how I really felt like the musicians there had the same ethos as me. So I really felt at home, even just being there for a few days and taking in a few gigs. And something about that allowed me to, the way I kept thinking about it was that, like, I feel like I'm leaving all my baggage here in Austin. Like, I feel like I'm just going to leave it here, and I'm going to go home and feel lighter, like I've left it there in some way, which is, again, not something that I could have foreseen. And so it, that's what's behind the idea of that, the thing that releases you, the thing that allows you to let go or to move on to the next level or whatever it is. It really could be anything, and it could happen anywhere. And it can't really be predicted. And so some of the lyrics in the verses of that song refer directly to my time in Austin, actually.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I also love this one because melodically, too, where you have like the different key changes. I thought it just had such a beautiful message and such a beautiful flow.
Oh, thanks. You must be a musician.
I am. So I want to talk about the production of the album. What was that like?
We're a live band. That's how we became what we are. That's what we love to do. So what we wanted to do with the album was capture our live sound. So we recorded the vast majority of what you hear on the record was recorded live off the floor, like including basically the whole rhythm section, both guitars, both keyboards, and my lead vocals too. I did my keyboards and the lead vocals at the same time while the band was tracking. The only things we put on afterwards as overdubs were like a few little guitar solos and the horn parts, and then some backing vocals. But it really, we wanted it to sound like us, and we think it does.
I want to ask you because you've kind of been songwriting for many years now. What advice would you want to give someone who wants to get into music?
Well, in general, if someone who's just wanting to get into music, I guess I would say, like, it takes a long time, it takes a long time to get really good at what you do, and to find your way. I think that every musician has their own voice, like whether they're a writer or a singer or a player. um, Everyone has their own uh, thing, their own little, way that is informed by everything about who they are as a person, who they are as a player, what their life has been like, and it takes a long time to grow into that. um, so I don't know if you can, like, if someone had told me this when I was in my 20s, I don't think it would have alleviated all the feelings I had back then about how I just wanted, you know it to be all I just wanted everything to just be there. I think maybe that's just part of being in your 20s, but now that I'm in my 40s, I see it how long it takes to really find your way and find out who you are as an artist, and get good at what you do. And it's funny because once you realize that, then you feel like even moving forward you have all the time in the world, that you're always that it's all everything's a process. And I guess that's, in terms of writing too, that might be the main thing that I'd say to someone.
That's amazing. And I want to ask you this question because Women's Day, or International Women's Day, is coming up soon. So I feel like as a woman, there's this notion that you sometimes you need to prove yourself. What are your thoughts when it comes to the music industry?
Oh, that's a good question and a big question. um yeah, I mean, that is something that is built into how the music industry works. Especially, I don't know if it's more nowadays than I think we tend to maybe have rose-colored glasses with regard to how things used to work, but yeah, it's kind of built into the mechanisms of how the industry works, that you have to prove yourself over and over and over again. And um, yeah, I think that through much of my life, that's caused me a lot of angst, because if you, and as I did when I was younger, if you often feel like you aren't enough, you're not doing well enough, you're not good enough a singer or a good enough a player, good enough a writer. If you already kind of feel that way, or you have those fears, then it's hard to keep pushing up against mechanisms that are always demanding that you continue to prove your worth all the time. Um, and and I don't know what to say about that beyond, at some point I reached an age where I didn't care anymore, or I stopped. um Maybe I have more of a sense of my inherent worth as a human being, and so I that does something to, my willingness to try to prove myself again and again. And there are all these practical ways that you have to, if you're applying for grants or applying for awards or whatever it is, you're always having to pitch, you're always having to say, I've done this. But you know ideally you can separate it a little bit, because um I don't know what can be done about that in industry terms, but I do think, yeah, especially as a woman, it has to somehow be separate from your feeling of your inherent worthiness as a human.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that's really great. Where it's like you find yourself and you're like, you know what, I guess I can do this despite, the fears. So, what projects do you have coming up?
The band is going to be pretty busy coming up. We're going on a small tour here in Alberta in April, and then we've got a pretty busy festival season. And then in the fall, we're going to release our second album. We just recorded it last month, and we're going to put it out in late September, early October. We haven't set a date yet. So it's all kind of already, it's in the run up to all that stuff. So that feels good. And yeah, personally, I've besides the band, I'll occasionally do sort of solo singer songwriter shows when the opportunity arises. I also quite regularly do. I sing the music of Edith Piaf, the sort of legendary French chanson singer from the mid 20th century. I've been singing her music for nearly 30 years, and that's something I'll do pretty regularly too. So yeah, for me, this band is the going concern, but for me, variety is the key to my happiness. So yeah, there's always lots of different things going on.
Why did you guys decide to call yourself Secondhand Dreamcar? I feel like that's such a cool band name. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a story too, just because we didn't it didn't really come to be because of any kind of meaning behind it or anything. We were going through a period where we were trying to name our band, and we were fighting over names, and nobody could agree on anything. And then the three of us were sitting. We were at a bar one night where there was like a jam happening, and uh, a friend of ours who was up on stage at the jam introduced the young man who was about to be singing a song, and he was telling the audience that this guy had just bought his dream car. And I don't know what the car was, but he said, "Yeah, he just bought his dream car," and the guy said, "Well, it was used. It was a used car." And so our friend Emmett said, "Well, it's a secondhand dream car," and and we all just looked at each other and we thought, "Oh, that actually has a ring to it." And so that was the one that stuck. And since then I've come to think, well, it does have all these cool connotations about it, about like something that um, is a bit older but is still around and has stood the test of time, and maybe has that quality of things getting better over time about it. So I think it worked out.
Beautiful. And for people who want to learn more about you and the band, where can they find you?
Well, our website is always a great place to start, secondhanddreamcar.com, because that can lead you to all of our social media sites, and you can listen to and buy our music on there. And so yeah, that's the go-to place, I'd say.
Thank you so much for being here. The album is Answer the Call, which is nominated for a Juno. And that was Dana Wylie. Thanks again.
Well, thanks so much.